My name is John Gass. I'm with PK Harris Advisors, and I'm a representative of the asset manager for this project. I'd like to thank everyone for attending today. We've handed out an agenda, and we'd like to handle the business of the committee first, and then last we'll have time for public comment. I'd like first just to go through an introduction of the committee members. I'd like to begin over at the right, Rich Kotz, if you could start us off by saying who you are and the organization that you're with.
Yes, I'm Richard Kotz. I'm with Harrisburg Parking Authority.
I'm James Henning, Deputy Secretary for Administration with the Department of General Services, who serves as the state's real estate agent.
Bruce Weber, I'm the Director of Budget and Finance for the City of Harrisburg.
David Black, Harrisburg Regional Chamber and Creedy, qualified designee of PEDFA.
I'm Rick West from West FSI, and I'm the parking advisor to the asset manager. And John asked me to actually just give a little background on myself, which is just simply that I have 30 plus years of operating experience in the industry, from small parking companies to medium and large, including being one of two EVPs running one of the largest parking companies recently in the United States. My experience is very deep in all sectors of the industry, and one area that's always been part of my career has been working in communities the size of Harrisburg with merchants, with residents, with the on-street, with the off-street programs, and we really look forward to doing that here.
I'm Chris Sherman. I'm with SP Plus.
I'm Jeff Durno. I work for Assured Guarantee.
Laura Collison, Chief Clerk, Dauphin County.
Thank you. And now to move on to a review of the Advisory Committee Rules of Governance. This was a document that was an exhibit to the Asset Transfer Agreement, one of the prime documents associated with the transfer of the parking assets from Harrisburg Parking Authority to the new owner. I am going to take some time to read some of these items just so that everyone can focus in on how the rules for this committee were developed. Number one, the creation of the Advisory Committee. The Advisory Committee is established by the Asset Transfer Agreement to provide input to PEDFA, the qualified designee, the asset manager, the operator with respect to matters affecting the parking system. The committee members we've just been approved. Resignation or removal of members. Any member may resign at any time. Powers and responsibility. Affirmation of vote of the members is set forth under Section 6 of these rules. The written resolutions of the Advisory Committee shall govern all matters which come before the Advisory Committee. Meetings. The Advisory Committee shall meet upon the request of PEDFA, the asset manager, or the mayor, but not less than twice per operating year. Initially, meetings are anticipated to be held at least quarterly. It's our objective at this point for the year 2014 to stick with the quarterly meetings. Voting. The vote of a majority of the members will be required for any recommendations of the Advisory Committee. A minority recommendation will be included if approved by at least 3 members of the Advisory Committee. Reasonable vote. In discharging his or her duties on the committee, the members shall act in the best interest of the parking system, the bondholders, and the users of the parking system. In determining what is in the best interest of the parking system, the bondholders, and users of the parking system, the members shall not be required to regard the party who appointed them as a dominant or controlling interest or factor, but shall give due and reasonable consideration to all factors affecting or related to the parking system, including but not limited to: 1, long-term prospects and interests of the parking system and its users; 2, the social, economic, legal, or other effects of any action on the parking system; 3, the recommendations, counsel, and advice of any consultant or engineering firm appointed in connection with the asset transfer agreement; and 4, the goal of operating the parking system to comply with the rate covenant and the prospective rate covenant. Scope. The Advisory Committee shall act in an advisory role to provide input to PEDFA, the qualified designee, the asset manager, and the operator in their operation of the parking system. The Advisory Committee shall review and provide input with respect to the following: A, any proposed expansion or contraction of the parking system or its operations; B, contractual compliance; C, residential permit parking; D, parking enforcement; E, technology and capital improvements; F, customer service; G, operating standards; H, other matters specifically mentioned in the asset transfer agreement. And I, any other matters the asset manager desires to discuss with the advisory committee. Finally, notices. The asset manager will promptly give notice to all members of the advisory committee of all matters to be considered by the advisory committee as provided in the asset transfer agreement. The asset manager will provide information to committee members and schedule meetings so the advisory committee can timely respond to matters it is to consider. All notices to the advisory committee shall be given to the asset manager, and the asset manager shall promptly provide such notices to the members of the advisory committee. So just to rehash on our schedule for 2014, we do intend to have quarterly meetings. We do intend to have these meetings open to the public. We will be posting agenda and minutes from this meeting on the Park Harrisburg website, which is in the process of being set up for that. Any discussion on the advisory committee rules of governance?
Ready very well.
Thank you. I think it's important for the audience and for all of us just to go back through that particular document again to understand the rules for this committee. Project status, SP Plus and PK Harris. Chris Sherman of SP Plus, if you could give us your status report, please.
Certainly. I think as most people know that the transition occurred on December 24th. Our local SP Plus municipal team was led by John Kemp, who is our regional manager, and Nancy Keene, who's in the audience today. And they have led the transition team, transitioning the operations from the Harrisburg Parking Authority, from the police department, from the city finance department, and from the IT department. In that transition, we've opened an office at 223 Walnut Street, which is where all of our back office and also where the public has the opportunity for payment of violations for on-street meters. We've hired a total of 44 employees, and those employees are working to upgrade the system as was in the original plan. As far as the update of that plan is concerned, I'll break that up between on-street and off-street. On the on-street, which is our first focus for the technology upgrades, we have a plan to put multi-space meters throughout the city. We are focusing on one unit, which is a digital unit, so that we can achieve consistency throughout the city and also provide consistency for our merchant validation programs so that we're not looking at two different systems. So one system will be in place. We have a two-phased installation approach. The first phase in the CBD, where we have installed 10 at this point in time. Unfortunately, the weather has delayed some of that installation, but we're looking at the next 2 weeks as being a good time where we'll be able to install more. The plan will be, after the first 35 are installed, which is in Second Focus State and Pine, that as soon as those are live, then we will have the new rates and the expanded hours will be put in place. So the new rates and expanded hours are in conjunction with the new meters. At current, for the expanded hours, we are only issuing warnings. Violation payment options, originally it was just in person. Within the last 2 weeks, we have expanded that to both online and by phone, and we've seen good participation for both online and phone payment. As far as the garages are concerned, our team undertook the task of getting all of the monthly billing onto our online platform, and we actually had over 700 monthly parkers sign up online, and we have held meetings with different groups throughout the city in order to get the larger parking groups onto the billing system. The equipment installation in the facilities is anticipated to start in May, and we would anticipate that being completed by October. With the off-street garages, one of the things that we are exploring further are programs that will allow for expanded products so that we can meet the needs of all different user groups, from residents to people who are working in different businesses and restaurants in town. And I think as we explore those further, and once we get the new equipment in place, we'll be able to offer some of those programs at price points that make sense for each of the different user groups.
Thank you. As far as PK Harris and our work today, we have been able to get approval for the 2014 operating and capital budgets. We're moving forward with a plan to effectuate those. We're also in the process of preparing to issue the initial financial reports, which will be issued on a quarterly basis. Will be posted to the Park Harrisburg website approximately 45 days after the end of the quarter. Now moving on to system information. Park Harrisburg website. Brett, last please.
Thank you. So, well, we don't have copies out in the audience for everybody. Everyone at the table here, if you will pick up your presentation for the parkharrisburg.com website. And truly, we want to make this the intent is to really make the parkharrisburg.com website centralized information and also action platform for all things parking in Harrisburg. So whether that be something that's directly part of the parking system that this group is managing day to day, or is something else, just because it's useful to have to share information everywhere we can. Some of the content that will be on the website will be permanent, so it'll only update when things change, such as if a rate changed or something, location information changed. But other information on the website will be more real time, such as the snow emergencies and change in policies that have occurred for that. We will also, the website will also serve as a functional hub, and as Chris has talked about, the ability to pay online and things like that, this will be where people will go, so they'll just have one place to go, even if it links to something else, but that way people only have to have one place to go. And besides paying for monthly parking, by example, it'll also be a way to interact with the Park Harrisburg customer service team. Moving to slide 3, the current functionality, because this website, it's again, things because of the way the transition was structured, we really couldn't do much before the transition, so the functionality will continue to grow, the content will continue to grow on the site. Right now, the core information areas on the site are information regarding the off-street parking garages, very similar to the information that was on the HPA website at that time. It'll also has on the on-street parking, and it has an FAQ section, and an FAQ section that will continue to grow as people ask questions, and we post responses there to make sure that any questions that are asked get shared more broadly. The monthly parking functionality that's already been referred to, and the violation payment functionality, as well as advisory alerts. While those in the audience can't see page 4, if you do go to www.parkharrisburg.com, you'll also see the homepage that's here, and you can browse through the rest of the site as well. The upgrades that we anticipate to the website, and we'll have an update on at the next advisory committee meeting, what are alert notifications. And so the intent here is that anyone in the public, the media, or any other constituency can enroll their email so that as we post updates, that you'll be alerted of those updates without having to go back and just check. Real-time garage occupancy status. So current generation of parking equipment that goes into the off-street parking garages or lots has the ability to feed the information to the website so that everyone can know through an app or through the website visit where there is space available. Merchant validation program section will be there. The merchant validation programs that existed prior to December 23rd still exist, but we're looking forward to expanding it, including add some on-street merchant validation options as well. The pay-by-phone app, so as the new meters are installed, one of the options that people will have is to also, instead of just walk up to the meter and pay the meter by cash, coin, credit card, but also do it through an app. And so this will be where that will be rolled out as part of that technology, but there'll be information and links here about how to use the app and where to get it. And then there'll also be, as John already commented on, there's going to be an About Park Harrisburg section, and that's the section where we're going to put project information regarding to more of the management of the system, including the financial reports 45 days after each quarter, the advisory committee information, and project and FAQs related to the advisory committee. And that's everything, John, on the website report.
Thank you, Rick. Chris, could you give us an update on community information sessions, please?
Sure. So as I've mentioned earlier on, at the onset of the transition, we had a number of individual meetings with different companies who provide monthly parking in the garages. We also held a forum at the Hilton last month, and we do have another plan for another forum in Midtown that'll probably be in early March. In addition to that, we have printed and will make available to retailers and to businesses information on how to use the new meters, so that when a patron or a customer comes in to a establishment, that if there are questions about the meters, that these will be available so that it's easy for the consumers to know how to utilize the new meters.
I'd just like to add one thing to Chris's comments. Any organization, any individual that wants to meet with the management of the parking system, SP Plus, all you need to do is reach out to us. We're happy to come to any group and talk about any issues, that update people on the programs that are in development. And so please feel free.
Thank you. Moving on to 2014 planning, pursuant to the asset transfer agreement, the asset manager will provide to the advisory committee a long-term capital budget and a parking or operating standards by March 31st, 2014. On the long-term capital budget, that is a 10-year projection of capital needs for the system. We are going to ask Desmond, who provided some reports for bond issuance associated with this transaction, to update the information that they have previously provided. One favorable piece of information is that towards the end of 2013, the Harrisburg Parking Authority completed significant renovations to the Walnut Garage. And just because of the timing on those improvements were not reflected in Desmond's projections. So we believe that the initial result will be is that we'll have a significant reduction in the immediate needs for the capital for the project, estimated to be about $2 million. So that's a good way to start out as far as the capital plan goes. Also, we'll be providing parking or operating standards, and I'll ask Rick West to run through those.
So once again, for the committee, there's a set of slides for the parking standards. So one of the functions of the advisory committee is to provide input to the parking standard, which is really about how the parking system is operated and policies. And the asset transfer agreement in section 5.1 actually requires the asset manager and the operator on behalf of the transferee to develop these operating standards that comply with Schedule 2 of the asset transfer agreement. And just like the long-term capital plan, we have to submit the first draft of the operating standards to the advisory committee by March 31st. From a procedural standpoint, the committee then has 30 days to provide review and comment, because we are required to no later than March to May 31st to have the initial operating standards be adopted. And one of the things, since this is a long-term parking system, is there's the ability to update and keep these operating standards relevant. On the Schedule 2, I referred to the Schedule 2. So the operating standards in Schedule 2, that what the operating standards have to meet, it has to cover both the on and the off-street parking, and the focus is to provide a clean, safe, and efficient operation for the public, and ensure, as John has talked about on the Capitol, that the off-street parking facilities are maintained and preserved to extend the useful life of the structures. It's really important because these are concrete structures. We also have watched the weather this year, and preserving the long term is a constant diligence that Rich can attest to. Flipping over to slide 4, off-street parking. Two specific things on the off-street parking provisions is there is a lot in the operating standards that will focus on routine maintenance, including maintenance schedules and inspections. That will include third-party engineering and preventative maintenance, janitorial, HVAC, lighting, snow and ice, elevators, landscaping, all things that from A to Z. And I already mentioned the third-party engineering inspection. There's actually provisions in the operating standards regarding how frequently that must occur. And then, of course, and there's also a condition alert protocol, and this is really an interaction between the parking system and the city and any other agency that we'd be communicating with regarding in the event if there's any kind of emergency situation. On the on-street in Schedule 2, a couple specific provisions are that it covers maintenance, collections, record keeping, customer service, and enforcement policies and procedures. So one of the things we'll be putting in the operating standards, by example, is just having a survey and customer comment section on the website, so that that's also not only providing the ability for a feedback loop, but it provides for the ability to archive that information as a way of being able for this committee to be able to monitor the activity. The city has rights that have been retained, and one of those rights to highlight is the city has the right to remove existing metered spaces for traffic, safety, or to reassign the space for other uses, such as a loading zone, and that's just an example. There is provision in the asset transfer agreement where when things like that occur, that there's a corresponding action, in this case, the substitution of other space and a revenue test, just to make sure that's kind of an equal trade. The on-street parking standards will also cover additional topics, including but not limited to the policies that are in place in every city, including in Harrisburg today, bagging of meters for special events, emergency plans, residential parking permits, and hours of operation. And what I just want to emphasize on the on-street, because it's pretty straightforward to understand that the off-street garage is what we're talking about, is the on-street garage. In the on-street, there's a certain area that's been designated in the asset transfer agreement of the areas within the parking system. And so it's only those areas within the city that are covered by these topics that we're talking about. The last page on this just gives the advisory committee the reference in the documents that I was referring to. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. I would just like to take a minute to recognize in our audience today Mayor Eric Papachus. Thank you for coming, please. And Councilwoman Eugenia Smith. So at this point, I would like to move on to any additional comments by the committee members. Any at this time?
Yeah, I got a comment and a motion. One, you said you have developed 2014 operating and capital budgets. Do you have those available for review, to examination, et cetera?
Yes.
Okay. How do we get them?
I can get those to you.
That would be great. So if you could do that, if you're early to do, that'd be awesome.
Certainly.
And second, just like to say that in light of further reflection and analysis since the parking transaction closed, and with the full understanding that this parking advisory board was never designed to be a customer dispute resolution vehicle, I would, however, like to make a motion that this board consider recommending to PEDFA that the board enlarge its membership by 2 seats, one directly representing the residents and one directly representing the business community of Harrisburg, thereby fully giving a voice to all parking system users and constituents.
We have a motion before the committee. We have a second. No second at this time. I think that would be an element that we would discuss after we go through the motions, but we certainly can do that and discuss that at our next meeting.
Okay.
Is that acceptable?
It's going to have to be.
Okay.
Could I just maybe further suggest that maybe we take Bruce's motion and flesh it out a little bit on what that process might look like and how we've got a very broad business community, what the selection process is, and also from the residential community, a little more meat on the bones. I think it's worthwhile. I think it's a good idea, but I think we just need a little more detail as we're ramping up.
Certainly. Any other discussion from the committee before we move on to public comments?
I'd just like to very quickly make a couple of points. First of all, this committee is somewhat mechanical and it's going to meet 4 times a year. But that doesn't mean that, as you heard from the folks from Standard Parking, they are trying to establish a dialogue with users in the community of the system, not only residents of the city of Harrisburg, but obviously there's a lot of people that live outside the city and the region that utilize the parking system. It hasn't been 2 months yet that they actually took over operation. And when you consider the number of garages and everything else that's happened, along with the lovely January and February weather that we've had here in the city, here in the region, it's been a relatively flawless transition take over the system from the parking authority. I think a good example of that during last week's major snowstorm, proceeding with the opening of the Locust Street Garage for resident parking, kind of continuing with a practice that's been there, and that was something, oh, this has been done, sure, we can do this, and I think it demonstrates that the standard parking is listening to the community and trying to work with the administration and others in the community. And I think the sessions, particularly give Chris a little pat on the back for the public session that you had over at the Hilton, and other conversations that have taken place in town. And I think that the idea is over the period of time, this has got to be a dialogue, a regular basis, rather than saving up for one point in time. And then I think the appropriate documents that will have to be laid out, can be laid out at these meetings. But parking is a daily activity, and you should feel free to call standard parking. And Nancy obviously is as experienced as anybody in parking in the city of Harrisburg, and it's good to they're still on board and being able to not only handle customers' issues, but relate the history of what's going on to standard parking. So, long story short, so far I think you've done an exceptional job in getting things off the ground.
Thank you, Dave. And one thing I'll just want to add is, that feedback started actually before, the feedback loop with the community and the city started before the transaction actually closed. And while it wasn't highlighted in Chris's report, the decision to go to all multi-space meter in the city with one common platform was actually an update from the original plan, which was a mixture of multi-space and single space to save a few dollars. And the benefits of what we're going to be able to do is influenced by that decision to go with one common platform. But that decision was highly influenced with feedback from the community in the city.
Well, further, from the first forum that we had, there were a number of suggestions and comments and concerns, and I did touch on it briefly during the update, but certainly one of the things that we're looking at are different parking options for the off-street parking garages in order to accommodate some of those needs. So for example, looking at options for night and weekend monthly parking that is at a price point that makes sense for the people who are interested in that product, looking at late afternoon to 2 a.m. monthly parking for those persons who are price sensitive and also looking for that product, perhaps midday to 2 a.m. monthly parking. So it's a process where we are, as we look at the upgrades of the system, we are making sure that when we put the equipment in that we have the capability to do this, and then we'll work with the asset manager to make sure that we're developing programs that will meet many of those needs and concerns that were addressed in that first forum. And certainly we want to continue that open forum, that open dialogue, so that the system works well for everyone.
Any additional comments from the committee members? Moving on to our next item is public comment. We want to open up for comments on the system. This is not supposed to be a question and answer session, I would add. Comments will be recorded and distributed to the advisory committee for review and discussion. We ask that you limit your comments to 1 or 2 minutes so that all will have the opportunity to speak. I will place that to the extent necessary. We'll start over here on the left-hand side of the audience and work from left to right, going from front to back. And we'll just ask that anyone on the left side come on and provide their comments at this point in time.
My name is Russell Sullivan. I'm the pastor of Pine Street Presbyterian Church, and I'm here with our church administrator, Ann Gwinnen. I want to thank you for this opportunity to share with you our feelings about the current changes in the parking system. And first, I want to say we appreciate the need of the city to raise revenue. We understand the rationale behind the leasing agreements and those items, but it's important that we share with you our feelings that a lot of these changes are counterproductive to building the sense of community in Harrisburg. First, we love this city and we love to be part of its purpose. We've been operating Downtown Daily Bread as a ministry for over 30 years in the city of Harrisburg, and we have partnerships with other churches. We believe that with our sister churches, we bring a humanizing and compassionate presence to the city. Our churches also bring people into the city, and it is our belief that many of the changes to parking will significantly make Harrisburg unattractive to visitors, businesses, and volunteers who make a difference to the city. Secondly, we're planning to develop an adult learning center that will tutor adults who are seeking to attain their GED. The center will operate during weeknights, increasing the rate at meters and extending the hours on meters to 7 p.m. will have a significant hardship on working people who come downtown for tutoring. If you cannot lower the cost of the meter, could you at least consider returning the hours to the earlier time of 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.? We hope the city and Standard Parking will see this as a way of entering into partnership with us to help people improve their education, and with improved education, find jobs. Thirdly, a charge for parking on Saturdays creates a hardship for funerals and weddings and events at the church. And Saturday is a wonderful time for families and people to be in the city. And do you really want to discourage people from coming into the city? Let's bring people into Harrisburg, not turn them away because of costly parking. We want to be a part of making Harrisburg a strong community where people live and work together. And we want to encourage you to do things that build ties that bind people together. The current parking changes work against, we're afraid, building a healthy and strong community for all. Thank you for this opportunity.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I represent St. Patrick's Cathedral in Harrisburg, and I just want to address a couple concerns that we have. We have Saturday Mass at 5:30, and with the new parking rules going into effect and the parking meters going off at 7 o'clock, it's going to present a hardship for some of our parishioners who attend 5:30 Mass. It's going to cost $4 to attend a Mass or thereabouts. And we're afraid that it's going to affect attendance. And affecting attendance affects contributions. And those contributions go to feed, sustain the finances of the food ministries that we offer at the Cathedral. We offer a Saturday morning breakfast program. And along with Pine Street, we offer food ministry on Sunday. We offer a dinner. And all of these things are very, very important to the homeless and the dispossessed. So we're very concerned about it. We're also concerned about weddings and how it impacts on that. We're concerned about funerals and how it impacts on that. And Father Rosman asked me to ask you if you would consider eliminating Saturday parking, or at least cutting off the meters at 5 o'clock. If you weren't open to that, would you consider a permit program, much like you have in residential neighborhoods, where we could buy a permit at a very reasonable rate and pass them on to our parishioners? So these are things that I just thought I would bring to your attention and hope that you would consider them. Because I'm represented here, I'm representing one church, and there's at least 2 other churches here, and we have needs that are sort of unique in downtown. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Pat Davis, and I'm an owner of the hardware store on 2nd Street. And I would like to discuss some things that people have been talking to me about. One thing is when they get a ticket, by the time they get it in the mail, the 3 days have already lapsed, so they owe $50, and I've heard a lot of complaints about that. And I was wondering, too, if we could do something for the residents, for the residents and the people who have businesses downtown, the areas that are parked mainly around 2nd Street, that's the ones that are most, businesses are more congested there. If we could have a 15-minute grace period, especially for drop-off and pickups for me. My customers just come in and they're running and getting a piece of hardware and they're coming right back out. And I can't picture them paying $3 or whatever to go to do that. If you could just have like a 15-minute break so they could go in and out. I don't know if you could schedule that on your... I also heard that you're going to have some type of electronic device that's going to be able to tell if someone's not fed the meters, so they'll automatically get a ticket. They won't even know they get a ticket, but they'll get it in the mail. And that's an issue, a worry for me too, because they'll probably just move to another spot and get another ticket for that same day. And also, I was wondering if it'd be possible to enlarge, make more loading zones for the businesses on 2nd Street, especially in front of, there should be more loading zones all the way down and up so that people can actually unload. We unload sometimes up to 10 times a day, in and out, and it's really, would be really difficult for me to worry about parking for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning. My name is Walter David Prediger. I'm a deacon from right across the street at Salem United Church of Christ. Started in 1787, 225 years ago. For the last several years, we've been running this clothing giveaway for the indigent people. It's on the first Saturday of the month, and it goes from 10 to 1. Now, we get there about 8. We stay about 1. Now, that would be, for one car, $3 an hour times 5, it'd be $15 to do this good work. Now, in other times, we have work parties on Saturdays, and we may be there the whole day trying to keep this old edifice going. And you figure $33 a day and try to get a team of people over there, 10 different individuals with their cars, a lot of money is spent on that. So I would just like to say, please keep this in mind. And the thing about our church, the majority of the people that I see over there are from the West Shore. They care about Harrisburg, like myself. They come from Goldsboro, Enola, even Duncannon. So we care deeply about Harrisburg. We love Harrisburg. In fact, from my house on the hill over there, I can see the whole Harrisburg skyline. So we love it, but please keep that in mind. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. My name's Patrick Scott. I'm from the Harrisburg area, and I just need to let the committee know that when you raise revenue, you hurt people that have bills to pay, and you also make it difficult for people to do that because, like myself, I have a disability and I get Social Security, and it hurts people like myself that just got their license last year that if I get a ticket, then how can I pay my other bills when I have a $30 thing, a $30 bill? Why not put it up to like $16 and, give people a chance on this instead of, putting it up to $30. I mean, landlords, when you pay your rent, give you 5 days of pay. You guys are only giving 4 days. You should give an extra day. So like someone said, if you don't get the thing in the mail for 3 days, then you have additional 2 days of pay.
Good morning. I appreciate the opportunity to address you guys. Several of the objections we have, you've already heard. The Saturday parking seems very out of touch with the community. 75 cents for whatever, 8 minutes, whatever. I moved here from New York City. You're talking about New York City kind of prices for Harrisburg. My wife and I have consciously stayed in the city when we moved because we like the city. There are stores that we go to, Pat's Hardware store, the Sandwich Man. There are places that we go into, that we'll be into for 15 minutes, for 20 minutes. To come out and underestimate the time. In the past, you got a $7 ticket. Oops, you go right downtown, you paid a $7 ticket. Now you come out, I bought a $5 item in Pat's Hardware store, suddenly I just paid $35 a surcharge charge on that. Or $50 if I can't get there in time to pay it. Also, could you coordinate with the mayor? When the mayor says that we are going to have a snow relief so we're not gonna have any tickets. My neighbor and my wife both got tickets during that snow relief. My neighbor didn't know that the mayor had said it's a moratorium, so he paid it. So boom, now you got an extra 50 bucks. My wife got hers, but there's a holiday and a weekend. And now she has to try to find a ticket. Boom, you got another 50 bucks. We feel like we're being like an occupation force, much like the colonials must have felt when the British were there. People who aren't from the city are coming in and grabbing our money exploitatively. I know that may not be the case. I know all you are honorable people, but I can only express the feeling that the people in the city feel we're being punished for something that we did not do. The stores that are around that we're going to run into for a newspaper, the Hallmark, for 2 papers that cost me $3 can suddenly cost me $35 if I run into a friend of mine in Strawberry Square. I'd like for you to please just consider that. And the Saturday is going to kill us in the summertime when people are here just to take a ride on the riverboat or just to walk along the river. To have them pay an extra fee for that is patently unfair. You're giving New York sharp prices for what should be a nice, small, middle town experience. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, good morning. My name is Asia Richardson. I'm currently a merchant downtown. I have a salon right across the street from Strawberry Square. And with the recent parking meters now being enforced, our clientele is really taking a hit. A lot of the merchants there are realizing that our clients are weary of coming out. The time of 7 p.m. is really pushing people away. A lot of my clients are in my salon for more than 3 hours. So they're equating now the cost of their service along with $15 to park, and they simply can't afford that. So for my salon and the other businesses that surround me, our clients aren't coming down there because they simply can't afford parking. And with them staying later, trying to somewhat pass the meters, now we're open later. I've had to walk several of my clients to their cars at 11 o'clock. And there was no cops around, there was no escort there. But they're trying to save money because they simply can't afford the meter. So it's also proving to be somewhat of a safety hazard for those that are trying to stay later to avoid the cost of that. Along with that, the meters that are implemented, like the gentleman said, they're big city prices, and a lot of our clientele are not making that type of income to support that, whether it's at the meter or whether it's in the garage. So as far as businesses downtown, including my own, I've seen the toll that it's taking on my clientele as well as my neighbors. We're just not able to supplement that with our clients. We're trying to accommodate them as much as possible, but between the times of how long the meters run and the cost of them, they simply can't afford to frequent our shops. So if you could definitely consider your prices as well as the times that you're enforcing the meters, that would greatly be appreciated if anything in downtown is looking to survive until the summer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Councilwoman Eugenia Smith. First of all, I want to say thank you to Mr. Weber for making the recommendation to add community members in the business community to the advisory committee. I also like to say that because our churches provide such valuable services to our members in the community, that you should also consider adding someone from the church community. But I do want to say that I was a little disappointed with the response. I don't know if you guys knew it, but back here, it was an awful feeling back here. I mean, you're saying you're an open system and you're having these meetings and you're giving the impression that you want engagement from the community, but we didn't feel that back here today. And so I would implore on you to really, Dave, I know you said that it was something we could consider, but I really would have liked to see you make the motion to second it and then work out the details later, because I'm not going to leave here today feeling good like something is going to happen immediately, and the issues that we're hearing are very immediate issues. They're issues that need to be addressed. We don't want our businesses leaving the community downtown. We don't want our churches not being able to provide the services to our community members. So I'm asking you to really reconsider seconding that motion to bring those community members, the business community, and also consider adding the churches. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Lionel Gonzalez. I would like also to mention I have done volunteer work in the Harrisburg Hospital, which I do in many hospitals. But sometimes it's no parking available inside the hospital when the family members bring a patient. And sometimes they do use the parking tickets outside. And in that emergency room, it takes a while. And I wonder if your body could make exception to such a location like those meters close to the hospital, in which it could be life and death there. But they use them a lot too. And I see because I do help there. And I'm very concerned about that. Okay? Thank you.
Good morning, my name is Ted Hansen. I reside in the 400 block of Bow Street, which is 1 block from the Capitol complex. And I'm here to speak to the issue of residential parking and the lack of enforcement of it. I have not seen any residential parking enforced, well, since the December 24th, I believe was probably around the last time. And that is leaving money on the street. Now, I understand that standard parking has very little incentive to enforce residential parking because the revenue from those tickets goes directly to the city. However, the city should have some incentive to collect money because we need it. It's unreasonable to expect the police to enforce that parking, just as it would be unreasonable to expect the police to provide chauffeur service for public officials. We're not doing that anymore, so I don't expect them to enforce the parking. However, the parking enforcement can be done. It would be a self-funding position for the city, so that should be looked into. And we need some tweaks to the permit system while we're at it. For example, I talked to Joyce Davis about one, which would involve a high-tech solution of Sharpie. Also, construction permits should be issued with the actual address that the work is being done. Currently, or in the past, we were required to provide license numbers of the contractor's vehicles. That's a little difficult to do sometimes, so let's look at. And this would probably be the city, not to you guys, but since I'm here. Permit parking should also not isolate residents in their homes. And that is the case with some elderly. People can't visit you during the day when the parking is enforced, or the parking permit. Washington, D.C. has a model that should be investigated where residents are issued visitor parking permits. And they are like gold, actually, but they are used for when people are visiting them in the permit parking zones in Washington. And we also need better verification of residency, especially now that parking is so expensive. I was approached by a non-resident who knows I'm a landlord, who was very interested in me issuing them a lease in order that they could get a residential parking permit. Not surprisingly, I refused. And I had a shovel in my hand, so I emphasized my refusal. And let's see. Also, as far as enforcement goes, there ought to be a way that people with smartphones, like me, can take pictures of illegally parked vehicles, email them to somebody, and a ticket be issued for parking on top of a fire hydrant or whatever else stupid things people do. But And the last thing I have just had on my notes here goes along with what Mr. Weber said, and is appoint a resident to this panel. Thank you.
My name is Ann Miller, and I work closely with the high-rises downtown and represent the residents that this is truly affecting. I want to show you a map of the residents receive when they want to get their zone parking pass. Most of the residents that I'm taking care of are not from Harrisburg, so we have to explain the system as they come in. I believe hundreds and hundreds of permits have been sold for our 263 spots in Zone 1, which is extremely large. We house, my residents alone in my high-rise at Graco take all the parking. The other thing that was brought to our attention is we are missing 71 spots from this map. We in fact have 192 spots instead of 263 spots. So it's becoming a burden. My residents are coming to me in a panic. I have done housing for 30 years in Harrisburg. I've never quite seen the panic that I see now. We have meters where they have to leave work, come home, even though they're a resident. And these are the people that make downtown work. They want to live here. They want to support our new mayor, but they're terrified they can't afford to. Daniel Howard has worked on our behalf to investigate a lot of this and was unable to attend the meeting this morning. But I can't explain to my residents how they can park and come to the city. They have an option of paying $155 in the garages. Or they have the zone, which sounds great. If we had enough spots, this is an enormous territory. Even if all this is implemented, and I do understand, or have been notified that it's kind of already done, there's not much we can do except kind of discuss this, is that I'm not sure how these people are going to be able to stay in the city. I have tentative notices from 6 people. Okay, never have I had any issue in the city in 30 years that gives me 6 tentative notices because they don't know where they're going to park. This is the proverbial straw that's going to break the camel's back for these residents who are going downtown, drinking and having fun and eating in the restaurants, supporting. They're the restaurateurs personally appointed by the governor. All these people want to support Harrisburg. We also don't have a transit system. If in fact you're going to move forward with this, you can't get a bus on. We have no public transportation that these people can find an alternative to maybe park on City Island, but hey, I can pick this up or get my car. I have young nurses walking to the hospital. They get held up at gunpoint for their purse, so they're having to walk so far. You can't keep asking these residents who we need to make the city work to figure out, but I can't park anywhere. You know, I need someone to explain to me how I can sell to people coming in from out of town that this is the place they want to land, because eventually the West Shore is going to become more attractive in housing because parking becomes a non-issue. It terrifies me. I respect your job. I hope that you'll work with us so that I can encourage my residents not to leave. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Joe Kowalczyk. I've been a property owner and a business owner in Harrisburg for 34 years. I pay approximately $50,000 a year in taxes to the city, services to the city, and like the lady before me, I pay those taxes because I rent properties to people to live. I also have a business that I operate, and as a businessman, I have competition. I compete against many other people. I compete against other restaurants in my restaurant business. I compete against other apartment dwellers. What I see here, and it scares me, it's very simple. You know, we're here because of bad decisions by public officials in the past, and that's the reason why we're here. But when the Harrisburg City Council person comes up here and pleads to somebody about something that the city controlled at one point, and when I call the city and ask them about situations that I have, and they say to me that really they don't have any control, standard parking has control. What worries me is this: I compete, but I don't believe you guys compete. You don't have any competition. I believe parking meters, you need them. okay? I get it, okay? But to increase the rates, that you increase the rates so high, you do it because you can. As business people, we'd love to be able to do that, but we can't do that. So really, I don't know what to say other than that. I really feel bad, just like, because, you know, you wouldn't even take a person from the community, you wouldn't even welcome them to the board. It scares me. And right now, I'm concerned about my payments to the city, and I don't know what to do.
Hi, my name is John Mank. I'm a local resident, also live in the Greco. And, you know, first of all, I'll make this very short because I'm going to be at a meter right now. You all better make sure you have yours fill it up as well. You know, about the parking pass system, I have no idea how it works. I don't think there, I mean, to be honest with you, I've never actually gotten one. I walked 2 miles up the road just to get free parking, just so I don't have to pay like your ridiculous amount of money, you know, for a parking spot. I'm not going to do it. I refuse to do it. And I think you really need to reconsider, you know, your times. You shouldn't charge people to park on Saturday. That's ridiculous. You know, that's inexcusable. These people make this city live. And now you're taking money out of their pockets. You're taking money out of the pockets of business owners. And you're doing more harm than good. So I'm just respectfully asking you to reconsider the new hours. You know, do away with Saturday parking. Cut the hours back to 5 p.m. on weekdays. And you can raise the fines if you want. You can raise the rates, but just don't hurt the city residents or the people at happy hour. There's a lot of people coming downtown at 5 o'clock, you know, to support the local businesses. So, yeah, I hope you reconsider that and help do us all a favor. I got to go and feed the meter, so I'll see you later. Have a good one.
Good morning. My name is Stacy Basor. I'm a resident in Harrisburg. I own a rental property in Harrisburg. I own a business in Harrisburg. Recently invested $1 million in another business in Harrisburg. That being said, you can see that I'm committed to the success of this city and the success of this community. I hope I don't repeat what has already been said a little bit, but I wanted to touch on the fact as a business owner, and I had recently had a meeting with several other business owners, so what I'm going to tell you is a reflection of what we had gleaned from that meeting. During a prior meeting held by the receiver, and I believe this was in October or November last year, it was stated that parking enforcement was simply not very good at issuing tickets, and if the likelihood of receiving a ticket was slight, then people would not be inclined to utilize the garages. It follows that increasing the ticket prices, which we've done, would enhance the use of city garages, which Barcelona so states, and create more street parking. If this is the case, it is reasonable to assume that the rate increases coupled with greater vigilance in issuing tickets would generate the sufficient income needed to fill in whatever number you're looking for, which is why you increased from 5 to 7 and to Saturdays. I hope that makes sense, because in my mind, I think to myself, if you issued more tickets, coupled with the increase to now $30 to $50, would that not be sufficient to fill in that stopgap? And could we not look at that in a year and say, yes, it did, or no, it didn't, and at that time address the extension of hours? Since we have this rate increase, and we know, and I'm certain I assume that everybody else does too, this is a done deal. This is part of the strong plan, we get that. But the extension of hours and the Saturdays, to my knowledge, at least in the meetings that I attended, that was not brought up. So it's sort of, the process wasn't very transparent, as far as I'm concerned. I think that the city and the business community obviously have a symbiotic relationship, and we both need the other to succeed, to survive. And I find it very troubling that we go to such an extent to risk the very success upon which we depend. We have been asked, and you may not be aware, but I know that the mayor is aware, and the city council, Eugene Smith, is aware, we've been asked to shoulder the increase in trash collection in the city. To some people and businesses, it's a 50% increase. We've done that with little or no feedback. Now you're asking us to shoulder this burden, which will directly affect our client base. We also must consider the employees, and for those working in restaurants, obviously I'm a restaurant owner, during lunch hours in particular, it is ridiculous to assume that my servers will pay $24 today to park to make $40. It's just egregious. So, in saying that, I'm proposing providing a discount to employees to park in one of the garages at $100 or less. I looked on your website, I saw that primarily most of them are $175 to $185 on average for non-reserved spaces. Could we maybe issue a $100 discount to employees and maybe provide a carport implement so that so employees could share spaces, therefore taking some of that financial burden off of those people. Also, I believe Mr. Sherman acknowledged in the last forum that was held in some sort of validation that businesses could provide to clients. If the board could elaborate more on this, it would be helpful if you could get that information to the business owners. That would also be helpful. During our recent meeting, we thought of perhaps looking at what you might suggest, and then perhaps on our end, maybe we give a discount back to our clients, in some way trying to alleviate that $3, $6 that they're going to spend coming into the restaurants. But if we could work with you on that, that would be very helpful. Also, I would encourage a full explanation, including the time of the proposed phase implementations on your website. I know you discussed that briefly. If you go on your website now, it states that Saturdays are in effect and the after hours are 5 to 7 is in effect. It's very confusing to the community, it's confusing to business owners, it's confusing to my clients. So if that could be updated to state that it's not taking effect as of yet, that would also be helpful. And in closing, I just think that we need some creative solutions, and I really hope that you do not just give us lip service here today, and that you take into consideration what we've said in these concerns. This 5 to 7, this Saturday thing, is a real burden on not only the businesses, the churches, and of course the residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional comments at this time?
Hi, my name is Cynthia Presley, and my husband spoke earlier and covered a lot of the issues, but I also want to make a point that it just doesn't impact the businesses where the meters are. Let me give you a typical Saturday for me. I want to come downtown. It's my final destination. I'll stop at a Rite Aid that's in the city, the one on Maclay Street. I'll stop by the Broad Street Market. I'll shop there. I'll go down to Strawberry Square because I can look in the ladies' store and it's more comfortable for me to look around. I can go in the Hallmark store and see what the new decorations are. I'm already thinking about changing that path. Because now what I can do is get my newspaper that sometimes I pick up at the Hallmark store or at the train station. I can go right up towards Linglestown Road, get my newspaper, go to the Rite Aid on Linglestown Road, keep on further to that Giant and get my printing taken care of out of Colonial Commons. All that revenue is bypassing the city because I'm concerned about the parking. And for February 14, back to what the ministers were saying about the volunteers, I do volunteer work and I do a lot of printing for a couple of little groups at my church. I went down to the State Street copy. My little printing bill was $6. My ticket was $30. Because I thought the mayor said it was okay. I couldn't hardly get to the meter. That just happened on Valentine's Day. So the next time, I'm going out to Office Max or Staples. Wendy does a wonderful job, any of you who use that State Street copy. But if she has another client in there, and I gotta be concerned about paying that meter, I'm not gonna take that chance. Please reconsider, and thank you.
Melissa Nicholson, the Executive Director from the Gamut Theater Group. We recently made the decision to stay downtown. We purchased a building over on 4th Street and we're renovating it, and we're very excited to be part of the city. Our actors that we use rehearse on evenings and weekends. We don't pay enough for them to have a full-time job at Gamut, the ones that we bring in for our Shakespeare plays, and they can't afford to pay this extra parking money, especially on the Saturdays, and we're gonna lose on that. I heard a lot of churches, residents, businesses, but I haven't really heard anything from the nonprofit community up here today, probably because they couldn't get a way to get here. I just wanted to speak up for the arts and culture. That's what brings people downtown, and a lot of us rely on volunteers that have to come in to make our businesses work as well. So again, if you can reconsider the hours and the Saturday thing, that would be great.
Any additional comments at this time? Just some short thoughts on what we've heard and really what the experience has been for us on the working end of this project. We closed at the end of December and now are approximately 60 days past our closing date. There's been a tremendous amount of activity. I've worked on transactions for my 30-year real estate career and can assure you that this has been a very challenging project to take on. And I can assure you, too, that you have valued professionals that are bringing every ounce of energy and understanding into looking at the issues that you have brought up. I don't know of one issue that's been mentioned today that hasn't been discussed with our working group in a way to look at the issue and try to figure out how it can be dealt with. So I assure you that that is being discussed, but keep in mind at the same time, we're trying to get the project up and running. There is a transition from the Harrisburg Parking Authority to Standard. There's many personnel that came over from HPA to Standard, been very beneficial to this, but still there's been a lot of work to do. As we all know, the documents that were in place when we closed stated the new rates for this project. At this point, that is what we are basically having to deal with as administrators on this transaction. So we understand your feedback, we value your feedback. And I think the reason that we've had this meeting actually earlier than I would prefer is especially for this section of the meeting where we had public comment, and it gave you the ability to come in and let us know how we can take into account the public's needs, issues, and et cetera as we move forth and basically implement the plans that have been put in place for this transaction. On any transaction, it's difficult when you have documents that have controls, you have public that have needs, and there's a way to try and mesh those two, and that's what our job is at this point. So we appreciate it if you can give us the ability to try and work on your comments and the understanding that we're dealing with many other issues, we're looking at your issues too. Many of them do not have overnight solutions that we would all like. So I want to thank everyone for coming today. We will have a second meeting sometime during the second quarter of this year. It will be open to the public. We will be addressing your comments that you've made today. So we look forward to that meeting and thank everyone for being here today.
If you'll notice, every comment regarding on-street parking, every comment that was made today is the on-street parking. That's what impacts the community the most. So you can take that into consideration.
Yes, sir.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.